Hello, everyone. You're most welcome to the Black Lives Matter segment. You're most welcome to the Stockholm Pride. We are having a little bit of a clinch, a technical problem, which our team is successfully trying to handle. We are trying to have everyone unmute so that we can get to everywhere you are. So please bear with us with the time. You're most welcome, and we are so eager to have you here. I will take this moment and opportunity to ask my other participants on this platform to introduce themselves, and I'll introduce myself also later on. Okay, I will start by introducing myself, since we have a little bit of a clinch. My name is Ivan Mwanje Chigonya. I come from Uganda. I am a lawyer by profession. I am a member of RFSL, UHARED in Boros. I am also a member of the anti-racist network in RFSL. This is one of the internal structures within RFSL which seeks to fight racism and all its color within RFSL. I am happy to be here. I am happy to be part of this panel, and I know we shall have a very good time.
Yeah, hello. My name is Ro. My pronoun is they, them, and in Swedish it's them. Thank you for inviting me. I'm an activist and artist from Stockholm here.
The LGBT movement and the anti-racist movement has always been connected. They have always been one in one basket. But at the same time, we know there is a lot of problem with racism in the LGBT community. Pride was started by the most marginalized Black, queer, trans femmes. Today we'll speak more about the LGBT community and movement and the Black Lives Matter movement today. So there is a lack of updated statistics in Sweden as regards to people living under several operations, in this case, the Black LGBT people. However, we do know that Afrophobic and anti-Black hate crimes are very high, and also the attacks from the Nazi organizations targeting LGBT people and movements are common. We also see political rhetorics trying to divide the LGBT people community against each other. So from that backdrop, the question I have to my fellow moderator or person here is, what is the situation today for Black queers in Sweden? What is your take? What is the situation of Black queer persons in Sweden? I will also give my views, but I'll start with you. Give us your take, your insights on the status of and the situation today of the Black queers in Sweden. Ro, hello, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, please.
It's the sound is a little bit off.
Did you hear me?
Oh yeah, thank you so much for that introduction.
Yeah. You can start with introduce. Oh, you've already introduced yourself, so you can carry it on from there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, personally for me, as a Black or mixed queer person in Sweden, I think it's very complex because of this mellanförskap, it's called in Swedish. For me, I like the analogy of being trapped between a rock and a hard place when it comes to movements. But I also think that, like, with the year 2020 that we've been having this far, I think the discussions and dialogues that we've been having are so vital, and this like forced pause or whatever have made me at least realize, because this is one of the problems that I have been having, if we're taking this on a personal level, that you don't see any Black queer people because of representation in media and like on boards and et cetera. But this momentarily pause have really given me the time to just see and having the time to have the dialogues and discussion with other Black queers in Sweden. Because it's been a little lonely, especially as a trans person. And I think I dare to claim that is by design, like through like bad representation in media and on boards. I think the queer community, especially here in Sweden, has to wake up in its whiteness and make some changes when it comes to sharing power and resources, because within the queer community, it is very white. The representation isn't there. If I dare to be this bold this early on in this discussion, I was planning to like ease it in, but like we have a problem with whiteness in this community. And as a mixed person, I am both Swedish and I'm also African American and Indigenous American. I have felt like this need to talk about that more, and I think that this year has really brought that opportunity with it. And now it's like we have the opportunity to really face the music and making the changes is who we have on our boards and where we put our resources in time and money and so forth. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You must have read from the same script as I. Because one of the biggest challenges is breaking the ice with the white supremacy that is so existent in the movements of LGBT persons and the queer movements in most of Europe and even in Sweden here. You'll find that the representation is very small and it's very hard to break the ice. As a new person who has I'm a new person in Sweden, and I know that for the interactions I've had, this is on a personal level, is coming to a place where I can express myself, my sexuality and all those things. You meet and you get to maybe RFSL itself. Let me use that example because that's where I've been. That's who I am. When you get there, there's what happens when you're coming from Africa. I come from Uganda, and we don't get this opportunity to meet. But when you come here, then when you get here, you have a new change. And this change comes when you get to meet different people from different backgrounds. And when you come to RFSL, they say, this is an organization that fights for our rights and who we are. But when you get there itself, you find that there's another layer that you have to break. There's another layer of maybe discrimination. There's another layer of white supremacy. So there is that ice that is so hard to break. So what happens is, if you're a new person, you will do what they call self-discrimination. You'll start pulling away. Most people, most black queer persons have put themselves away, that self-discrimination, because they say, they push themselves away. How will I carry on? How will I break this ice? So that's one of the challenges. That's one of the problems we are facing as queer people in Sweden. But the opportunity is, the good side of the coronavirus is it has given us an opportunity to share a common problem everywhere. So time to rethink, as you've said, it has given you time to think about yourself, and this is an opportunity that we have a shared problem, so let's face this as a common people. Thank you very much. I don't know if there is any other person on our panel right now has anyone who has tried to, inquiring from our technical group, if there is anyone else who has tried to log in. Hello, Joseph. Is Joseph here? Joseph, can you hear me? But if he's not, then we shall carry on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because I did a quick search, actually.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Helena. I can't hear you now, but okay. But no, I did a quick search on both the board of Pride and RFSL and the RFSL youth.
Yes.
And I found only one non-white passing black person, because I don't know about the others' ethnicity or anything like that. And that's Joseph, who's the other panelist with us, or your
Yes.
And so that's also something that I would like to talk about. And I'm glad that you brought it up, and that discussion or dialogue that we can have that as well.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Helena, are you here?
Yes.
Yes. Can we have your brief insights on the first questions we are handling? We are talking about the status of the situation today for Black queer in Sweden. What is your take? What do you see? What do you have to tell us?
Well, yeah, such a big question. I think Joas brought up a lot of really good points. I agree wholeheartedly about the state of the queer community at large in Sweden and Stockholm specifically as well. To me, it's always to me the question about like the double discrimination that you face with racism and the LGBTQ phobia, be it your sexuality or identity that is earning you attacks. That cross-section, that intersectional cross-section, if you'd like, I think creates so much extra tension that I think anyone who's lived that life knows this to be kind of obvious. But maybe it isn't if this hasn't been your life. I also think that the like Black erasure, I mean, it's not just a problem of lack of representation. I think we're actively being taken out of our own history and out of queer history. Like anyone who has looked up like the beginning of Pride knows the names of like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. But I think Pride at large, when we talk about what the celebrations are and how we came to this place of more acceptance, those names are not mentioned as much as they should be. And there's a long history of Black queer activists who haven't had the recognition that they deserve. And it continues to this day. When we look at like who's performing at Pride and who's being asked to get up on stage and tell their stories and share their art and their thoughts, it's predominantly not Black queer people. And I think, like the LGBTQ community in a larger sense moves forward, but we're still always at the back. So to me, that is the biggest, one of the biggest issues facing specifically us Black queer people in Sweden right now.
Thank you very much, Helena. You interested me with your thoughts and taking us back to the history of the LGBT persons and the community, and telling us that the Black people were at the center stage of the movement and where we have come and the struggles we've gone through. So it's a time, it's a wake-up call, maybe to the Black persons themselves, the queer persons, to claim their position, and also to the mainstream RFSL white body to also give us space to share on the cake, and also give us room to exercise our uniqueness and see what we can bring on the table. Thank you very much. Yeah. We shall carry on to the next question or something to talk about. This one here goes to Ro. Hello?
Yeah.
Yes. What do young Black LGBT people need in Sweden? What do they need? Just give us a brief on what.
Yeah, I think representation. I think only through representation, young queer Black people are able to even envisioning having a seat at the table, because I've been working a lot with youth, especially in the hood, or like in the orten. The Swinglish is coming through now, sorry, but and I've been shocked with the it's still such a need to just being able to envision yourself in those places. And without role models, it's very hard to create the entitlement that you need to feel entitled to sit on a board, or being entitled to bring up this discussion. And like, I think that is one part of it. And also to have like real support, as in time and resources, to really be able to build something sustainable. And that's money. We need to give money to the organizations that are already doing this, like Black Queer Sweden, or like, people have been and are doing this already, but they do not get the recognition. And I think that was, I'm really riffing off what Helena said before, with like who are invited on the stage, who gets to be on stage. And I think also that white Sweden, like the white Sweden, part of Sweden as a country, really has to reconcile with our colonial history and accept that privilege is real, and start acting from that point of view, instead of like of shame that I feel that when you have this discussion, it always turns defensive. And I think I really try to do this myself as a light-skinned person, to use my privilege as a weapon, and not like being so ashamed about it, or more like, this is what I can bring to the table if I'm a real ally. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Quite interesting thoughts and opinions that are coming through. We shall move on to, we are moving on very fast with time, and I know this is an important and interesting debate that we cannot dissect in just 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but I want to call upon you here and everyone who is watching us and following us, that this debate may start today, and let it continue, let it carry on through today, tomorrow, and the other day. Let this be a continuous debate, so that we can have the change that we desire for as Black people, as LGBT communities that seek to create equality. Let there be equity in the equality. Quite an interesting statement. Let there be equity in the equality. Don't talk about equality which is not equitable. So let us have all people on the table. Let us have equal space, so that we can all flourish. We can all flourish. So the next question, we will now move to talk about the Black Lives Matter campaign, and what are some of the challenges there in the Black Lives Matter movement when it comes to the LGBT rights? What are some of the challenges we face? What are some of the challenges in the Black Lives Matter movement when it comes to LGBT rights? So this we shall all answer. So I'll start with Helena, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and I'm here representing a group that has been working to create an NGO, or in Sweden like a förening, for Black Lives Matter Sweden. And to me, I think like one of the like obvious challenges that there are is that, transphobia and homophobia and discrimination towards LGBTQ people is not something that only exists in white Sweden, of course. It is something that we, of course, still face within our community. And to me, like, that's step number one, that we are fighting alongside our brothers and sisters and our siblings, but, we are not always feeling supported by them in this part of our lives. Speaking about sexuality and speaking about identity is not something that is always safe for us in all of the spaces that we move, even when we're talking to our Black siblings. Yeah. So that's number one, and then number two to me is that, again, like, facing that double discrimination puts our issues on the back burner, like issues that are general to anybody LGBTQ, anybody gay, or anybody trans. They come first. Issues that all Black people face, like discrimination that all Black people face, that comes first. So the specifics and the intricacies that you face specifically because you are Black and LGBTQ, will always be at like the very back line of issues to bring to the forefront, whether you're fighting for the Black cause or the LGBTQ cause. And I think that's why it's so important that we have organizations and groups and spaces like Black Sweden and other spaces like that, because, you know, like we've been talking about, RFSL is unfortunately not always the space to do that. And the Black Lives Matter movement is not always a safe space to talk about LGBTQ issues. So to me, that's number one. We need to make our own community a safe space and a welcoming and supporting space full of like real allyship. And like Ro was saying, with people using their straight privileges, their light skin privileges, and all such to move everybody's issues forward.
Yeah, thank you very much. I highlight something interesting that happened within RFSL. In January, we launched or started the anti-racist network within RFSL. This was a very strong, very big step in creating space for colored people, for Black people, to talk about racism, to talk about how they can claim their space, how they can claim their position back. And the movement or the network is moving on very well, and I'm one of the coordinators. We want to thank RFSL. That's one of the positives that we're having within RFSL, that when you come to this network, you'll find a lot of people, representation from different countries, from different walks of life, and this is a good step in the right direction. And I will now go to Ro to also give us her insights.
Yeah, I just think that we should, like, the knowledge is out there, and we should give the people who have been doing this, like, it's not that people have not been putting in the legwork. As Helena said before, the erasure of especially queer Black people is real, and we need to acknowledge that. Even in Sweden, there is a saying that is koka soppa på en spik, meaning to accomplish or produce something with minimal resources. And we have people who have been doing this for years and years and years. It's not that we do not have a community. We have community, but we need the resources to take it to another level. And that's maybe what I want to say as a last thing, like, and give them their flower. Influencers like Lovett Jallow, or poets like Juliet Atto, or Judith Quiros, or Samuel Gilma, who are out there doing the thing. Yeah. Give them their flowers. And yeah.
Thank you very much.
Pride was a riot, state is violence, defund the police, and make techno Black again. Yeah. Happy.
Thank you very much. I will bring in Joseph to also briefly give us some of the insights on what we're discussing now. Joseph, can you hear me? Joseph? Not with us. So we shall move on. It's quite interesting what both of you have shared with us, and the resources need to be there, because it's not about lip service, talking and talking and talking. We need to have these words transformed or put into action so that there is concrete results that can be shown for whatever work that is taking place and that is going on. And this is what I wanted to say. We may, as a Black Lives Matter, this is something it's a slogan that is coming to us from United States of America. We may not have had the same kind of riots or protests as they did happen to highlight the injustices that are happening or were happening in America. You know, we may not be at the same level of magnitude as it is happening elsewhere, but we must also recognize that there is a lot of injustice as regards to Black people in Sweden as well. So my take is, Martin Luther King said that we human beings are connected, inescapably, mutually connected, that once something happens elsewhere, it can also happen to us. So we don't have to wait for this to knock on our doors. So we have to come out and talk about it. condemn it and find ways of moving forward and creating solutions to this. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I don't know if Joseph is on. If he's not on, then we shall carry on. So this we shall all discuss. Should the LGBT movement and the Black Lives Matter movement cooperate? Is there a need to come up? Are these two connected? Should they work together? What is your take? And why should they work together? Should the movement, LGBT movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, should they be in the same basket? Are they sisters and brothers? Are they related? What is your take? I'll start with Helena.
Well, I think like to me it's not even a question. Like they have to. Both are concerned with our lives, and both are concerned with issues that permeate our lives and that affect our lives in every step. The color of our skin, our identity, or who we choose to love, it matters, you know, with the jobs we pick and the jobs that we have available to us. It matters to where we live, our health, or, you know, how long we're expected to live. Like all of these things can be clearly demonstrated that they're affected by both our status within like the LGBTQ community and our Blackness here in Sweden. So I think that because of that, and because, you know, you can exist in both of these movements at the same time, they are inextricably linked for those of us who are affected by both LGBTQ discrimination and anti-Black discrimination. So I think by that very fact that you know, we exist, we in this chat right now, those two movements have to be linked. There is no other option.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Then I will quickly go to Ro to also give us our insights.
I think you put it very well, Helena. Because you don't. It's the thing with being Black and queer or being a minority. You cannot just like step out of that role. You are these things continuously, always. So it makes no sense. But of course, there are different problems within different communities, but we're the overlap, and that we have to recognize. But you know, yeah, we have to. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much, because the Black Lives Matter movement and the LGBT movement, to me, they are so much related. It is the same blood. The history, going back to the history, the women that were at the forefront of founding the Black Lives Matter movement, these were Black women, mostly. And then Black people had a very important history as to the LGBT movement. So these are people of the same house. These are people who must come together to find common problems, to common solutions to a common problem. Yes, and that's where we are now. And thank you very much for those interesting insights and opinions. We shall move on to the next. Then there is an interesting group of people that I am new to Sweden, and I could subscribe to this kind of people, and quite interesting that they have special needs, and they need to be understood. Sometimes they're not understood. So we shall talk about briefly in the few minutes, I think 1 minute to each person or two, 1 or 2, 3 minutes, about how can the LGBT movement and the Black Lives Matter movement in Sweden work more for the rights of Black queer asylum seekers. We have asylum seekers, an interesting group or category of people in Sweden here who are affected in different ways. How can the LGBTI movement and the Black Lives Matter movement work more for their rights? Who are these people? We are talking at a time when there is a pandemic, And most of these have been affected greatly, immensely by the pandemic. So there is a double pandemic to them. They are coming or running away from places where they come from because of persecution, and then they come here and they fall into a new land, and there are a lot of things that happen. So how can we come out to help these asylum seekers? I will start with Helena, please.
Well, I think both the LGBTQ movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, in different ways, are both like responsible for helping our siblings worldwide. Like, human rights don't only extend to the borders of Sweden or the borders of Europe. They are global, and they're valid for every single person all around this world. And that's, I think, like one of the most prominent ways that we can use our privilege as being like living here in Sweden is fighting for a better asylum politics, working towards Migrationsverket and working towards our politicians to ensure that they understand that they have a responsibility to work asylum laws in a way that is in accordance with those human rights that they have also, signed, that they agree with. And that means that, if you're supposed to be able to live free from persecution because of your sexuality or your identity, if you can't do that where you are right now, you should be able to come here. If you have come here, you should be able to stay here. And if you face persecution because of your skin color, because of racism, and you have come to Sweden, that should grant you asylum. That should not be it should not be up for discussion. And I think our movements, Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ, should work towards those goals.
Quite interesting. Thank you very much. You have clearly said everything all, and it's very important, the points you put out, especially as regards the asylum system and the migration policy in Sweden. We come at a time when the current legal regime in Sweden is trying, most especially on the asylum process, and the migration legal regime is in a bit of a shamble. The Migrations Committee is supposed to make reports. They are failing to agree on key important points to consider in this new policy they're supposed to come up with as regards migration. A lot of asylum seekers are a bit uncertain on what is going to happen. Let me tell you one thing. From the background where I come from, there's an interesting topic or thing I always think about, given I've met a lot of people, mainly like me, asylum seekers here, and they live in a kind of, they're not sure about what's going to happen tomorrow, and the system itself can be so stressing. One of the laws that I always love so much is the one that regards to torture. So torture can be both physical or psychological. And we subscribe to these international instruments. But sometimes the system can put people through psychological torture, and they run away from places where they come from to a safer abode. And when they come here, the politics bangs them and boxes them in different directions. They receive different punches because of the politics and the system. So we want to call upon the people in power. We want to call upon the people who have the mandate to decide. And as we think about a new system of migration in Sweden, let us consider about the inherent rights, the inherent attributes of people who run and come here for safety. And that should be the guiding principle. Let us not just act on the bare minimum of what should be given. Let us try to make sure that whatever we give is not just something it's not a shamble, it should be something real. Let the protection and the help that is being given to people here in Sweden, let it be real. Let it not just be something that is sugar-coated. Let it not be sugar-coated protection. And that's my take on this point. Please, Ro, you can come in and talk about this point.
Yeah. No, I think you both make such wonderful points. And I just wanted to say, what I think as a Swedish person, and just like reconcile, just like, first of all, silence is violence. Willful ignorance or compliance it just like enables our government and Europe to enforce violence that we do not know about, but if you read up on it, you do. So I implore everybody to just like read about Sudan and what's happening there, and Europe's relationship, the border walls that we have, and the complacency that we all play in our silence if we don't speak up about it. And that's mostly what I have to add to the conversation. That knowledge is power, and we have the duty, I think, to educate ourselves. Not only what's happening here, but also how our government is affecting all the parts of the world, and in history of colonialism and everything like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll go back to Helena. You will give us your closing statement briefly. Let me call it a closing statement, or put everything into perspective, what we've been talking about, and you can, just your closing statement.
Well, as a closing statement, if I could send a thought with anyone watching who is Black and queer, or would like to do something positive for Black queer people, my thing would be organize. Organize to speak up and take space. Organize to influence policymakers and politics. Organize to share your thoughts and art. Like I said, I represent a group that is starting an NGO called Black Lives Matter Sweden. We're having our first start-up meeting for the actual NGO in just a couple of weeks. But if not that, join RFSL, join Black Queer Sweden, join Afrosvenskarnas Riksförbund, join whatever works for you, or join your local, I don't know, Fotboll's club, your local poetry reading, and just take up space, being Black, being queer, and doing you. I think sometimes just being a Black queer person and spreading your magical self is the most radical act of revolution you could do. So do that, and if you can, try to move our public discourse forward while you're doing it.
Thank you very much. Quite interesting. Action-oriented, taking action, doing something.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Then I'll come to Raw.
I kind of said mine, but I wanted to just riff off of that. Black joy, queer Black joy is defiance. And only existent is defiance. So, and love to you all for being you. And also then again, Fridays to riot, status violence, defund the police and end security violence, even here in Sweden. Make techno Black again, and happy Pride. That's my statement.
Sure, thank you very much. We want to continue to thank you for those who have been following and watching us closely here. It's quite an interesting, I said before when we were starting that this debate is carrying on, and I know there are people who have quite beautiful ideas, and from what Helena is telling us, take action from where you are, wherever you are, Black or whatever, you take action and get the space, claim. Sometimes it's about, it's not about talking about things. Sometimes it's about you also taking part in what is happening and taking, grabbing the opportunity. So let's grab the opportunity. Let's be seen. Let's be heard, and let's take action. And I want to thank RFSL for this opportunity to have this today, and giving us an opportunity to say something. I see Joseph is here, right? I think we are losing one of our friends. Quite unfortunate. But it's been nice to be here, and I want to thank you. I want to thank the great people who have been here with me, Helena and Ro, for such beautiful insights. And I'm looking forward to following you, Helena, especially on the Black Lives Matter movement and NGO that you're trying to create. Let's have this information out and let people have it. Because I know one of the challenges we have is lack of knowledge and education, especially LGBT education in different aspects, translated in different languages. So let this message reach out to everyone. Try as much as possible to have it reach out to everyone. Let's embrace it. I know when I go back to Boros, I'm going to take on this message wherever we are. So let us be seen. Let us be visible. And this is what we are looking for. So we want to thank you for taking off time to be here and sharing your thoughts with us. We are very much indebted to you for such the beautiful sharing that we've had. And let this debate continue. Let us not wait for Pride. Pride is going on. Let's meet elsewhere. Let's meet on different platforms. I think now we can share things from the back of our bathrooms or the sitting room, so because of Corona. So let us use this time. Let us use this time of the pandemic to reach out to everyone, to share love and to be good people. We want to thank you for tuning in and have a nice Pride. Thank you.